So I'm calling this special public Putney Select Board meeting to order at 5:01. And our first item is adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments?
No.
Great. Any public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay. And just to give a quick rundown to everybody, normally we keep everybody's microphones muted and until it's time for you to speak. If you would like to speak and you're not an invited speaker, then just reach out to us through the chat and we pay attention to that and we'll happily invite you in. We really want you all to be a part of this process. And normally it's select board speaks first along with town manager and then invited guests, and then we turn it over to the public. So moving on from public comment not on the public comment on items not on the agenda, we have select board items, the emergency management preparedness update. Do you want to start with the farmers market or do you want Tom to start?
No, I'd rather have the farmers market start and then we can.
Okay. All right. So Diane, I assume that's why you're here. Karen, did you have anything that you wanted to start with or should we just invite Diane in?
No, we can invite Diane right in.
Okay. Hi, Diane.
Hi there. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for inviting me to your meeting. I really appreciate you being interested in what it is that we are up to.
Yeah, and how we can support.
Great. So what would you like to know to start off with?
I guess, what is your opening date?
That would be the 24th of May, Sunday the 24th.
Okay. And what new protocols have you put into place?
Well, we have come to the conclusion that at this time we are going to do a prepaid call-in and contactless pickup only. I apologize, I have to let the dogs out.
That's okay. That's all right. Life happens, especially when we're all meeting from at home.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, so we're going to do a prepaid contactless pickup only. We are not going to have an in-person market at this time. Last night, we talked about setting up our big market tent, which is 20 by 20, at the opposite end of where we normally do, so that it would be sort of across from the bus stop on Alice Holloway. So depending, what we anticipate is that people can pull in from Route 5 onto Alice Holloway, pull way to the side out of the driving lane, give us the information on their order, and we would be able to put the order into their car. And so nobody would be getting out of their cars. It would be a hopefully very quick transaction because we're asking people to prepay. The only people who would have to pay in person would be people using EBT because they're not allowed to pay online. So after people get their products from the market, they would then turn left up Carroll Brown and exit to the old Route 5, and from there they can go whichever direction they need to go.
Are you working with the co-op on this?
We have not so far worked with the co-op on this.
Okay.
We're not against it.
We're not against it.
We're just really trying to do the best we can to pull things together.
Mm-hmm. How are you getting the word out about this new system?
Lindsay Riopel is our market manager, and she is in charge of all of our marketing and advertising, and she makes use of social media pretty effectively. This will represent a change, we think, in the market, in that in the past, a great deal of our customers have been people from out of state or out of town who are stopping off to get some lunch and pick up some fresh produce on their way home from a weekend in Vermont. And we anticipate that we're really only going to be attracting our local buyers. And we do have local buyers, but we anticipate that's really the basis of what we're going to be doing is taking care of our local buyers.
Okay. Do other members of the select board have questions?
Hang on a minute.
Can you tell how, I don't know how that echo is coming.
It's awful.
Can you tell us how the system for pre-order works? Do you have a website set up that one can go to and see what's available, et cetera?
Yes. We are using a platform called Eat From Farms, and you can access our site by typing in putneyfm.eatfromfarms.com. You should be able to access our landing page from there. We are not 100% up and running on it at this time. We are still working out the bugs.
Okay. So if one searches Putney Farmers Market, does it lead them there?
At this time, I'm not sure. We just signed up for the program or the app or whatever it is, and our market manager, Lindsay, and one of our farmers, also a board member, Justin Bramhall, they're the two who are really in charge of getting the program up and running.
Good. Do you have a sense of how many vendors you're going to have at the beginning?
Approximately 10 to 12.
Good.
And it's all farmers. It's no craft, nothing like that. We're really focusing on the farmers who have products that need to get out of the fields and into people's kitchens.
Good.
Just to repeat that, it's putneyfm.eatfromfarms.com.
I believe that is the correct address.
Okay. Thanks. Karen, can we get this information up on the town website? You're muted, Karen.
We can. Not an
That
issue.
would be fantastic. Our hours are going to be from 11 to 1. Normally we run 11 to 2, but we feel with the contactless pickup and the reduction in our customer base, we feel that 11 to 1 is probably going to be better.
Okay.
And again, this is subject to change based on how well we're able to get the contactless pickup up and running, and how conditions on the grounds improve, overall over time.
You might want to have Lindsay shoot Karen an email with correct, just so it isn't sort of telephone.
I'll have her do a press release.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Karen, I don't know whether we have room on a sandwich board to put that in front of town hall too, but we could try at some point.
We can. We have a sandwich board there.
And this brings me back to my pitch for more sandwich boards. But I want all the sandwich boards. And Karen, when you get that, will you forward it to me so I can put it on the Facebook page as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
David, do you have any questions? You're muted.
Yeah, because he has
David's muted.
sound.
Now,
There he is.
It's
Yes.
his mic.
so I think there are still some people traveling, even though we're asking people not to travel from out of state. And how are you set up to deal with the people who are going to come who might see the tent they are looking for it from the past? Are you set up to deal with them too if they don't have a means to order online?
Our ordering is set up to have a cutoff of Saturday afternoon.
Oh, nice. Well,
David, didn't hear
I'm
that.
not understanding your miming.
Okay, I lost the sound.
I see. Our ordering is set to cut off on Saturday afternoon so that the farmers have time from Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning to assemble the orders and bring them to the site pre-assembled as per the government guidelines. So we will need to redirect people who want to buy in person to the co-op where they will be able to shop.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief Goddard, do you have any, from the health perspective and emergency management perspective, do you have any questions?
No, not at all. Everything that sounds great.
We will have a hand sanitizer, so the people who are actually performing the contactless pickup on behalf of the farmers market, they will have access to all the sanitation that they need. They will be wearing masks as required. We understand that the farmers also have to pay attention to all of the sanitation and food safety laws that normally apply. And so they're all aware of that, and I'm confident that they'll all be able to meet those standards. I actually do have a question for whoever's in charge of traffic issues. And mostly I'm concerned about jamming up traffic. And I'm wondering if you have suggestions for us to mitigate any kind of dangerous situations, whether it's cones, flagging, anything.
okay.
Karen?
So I just want to state that Route 5 is a state highway.
Right.
So the state of Vermont may have an issue if there is traffic, either slowed down or backed up. I mean, my concern about turning on to Alice Holloway Drive is if you're going north and you can't get in the line or get out of traffic, what's going to happen?
Diane?
Yes.
Just to clarify, you said you're going to instruct traffic to come off of Route 5 onto Hallis Hallway Drive, correct?
Correct.
So,
across from the fire station.
Exactly, directly across from the fire station entrance. So right. I'd like to assume that the amount of parking that's available on Hallis Hallway, I wouldn't foresee there being a problem.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I would hope that too.
If traffic were going to come onto Carroll Brown Way off of Route 5 off of Main Street, that would be a totally different story. But
yeah, that's
with
already
everything that's available, with all the space that's available on Hallis Hallway, I would assume there won't be a problem.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on some additional signage that we can place at the intersection of Alice Holloway and Carroll Brown to help people go left to leave? Because that whole one way with Carroll Brown can be confusing.
Well, that's actually from Alice Hallway. Traffic is not supposed to turn right onto Carroll Brown Way. They're only supposed to turn left.
Well, I know they're not supposed to.
Okay. All right, we get that.
It might be a good place for a cone or two in the, basically just right there on Carroll Brown Way, sort of so that it's obvious that you aren't supposed to turn right, because that would still allow co-op traffic to either go straight or turn left. But if you just had a couple cones there, because people do get confused about that. But I mean, but I think my guess is as this hopefully builds, over the summer, that this may become an issue you need to think about
Right.
But I'm guessing, as Tom's pointing it out, and I would agree, at least at the beginning, the likelihood of you having enough cars to create a problem, I don't know that that'll be an issue. Also, are you doing anything to try and stagger pickup times at all?
We did not address that issue directly in terms of assigning times. And let me take that back. We decided not to assign specific times because we have a very short window of pickup, 2 hours. And we've been participating in a number of calls with Nova Vermont and the Vermont Farmers Market Coalition, and paying attention to what other markets have been doing. And a lot of the markets who are trying to do assigned times are finding that it's not working very well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did discuss the possibility of there being some sort of a log jam, either at the very beginning or at the very end of the market, if people showed up, 15 minutes before it stopped. And basically, we decided we would assess at the end of the day and figure out if we needed to make changes for the next week. We really want to be nimble about it and make sure that people are safe, make sure that people can get in and out easily, make sure that we're not blocking off any of the traffic to the co-op or in other ways inhibiting people's use of the space. So, whatever it is that we can do.
So Diane, have you considered having traffic come from Old Route 5 down Carol Brown Way and out Alice Holloway onto Route 5?
Well, that would present a question about where would we place the tent? Because if they're going to come down Carol Brown and turn right, they end up kind of in front of the bus stop. Is that right?
Right.
And that's not our property to be able to put our tent up. And we're really thinking that we need the tent to keep produce cool, keep it in the shade.
So Josh, is that Gateway property though, right across from just left of
where they're talking about? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as it is now, that's property that the farmers market has been using consistently for a long time. It's just sort of the lesser used end of the property in a way, but people certainly park over there and access that from that direction. So, but there's also, I mean, I can't recall, Tom, whether there are parking spaces on that side or whether that's just a travel lane.
That it's a travel lane, but I mean, under the circumstances, with everything considered, that there is plenty of room there for people to park temporarily. So I don't foresee it would be any big issues would be created at all. And if we find that we do, then we'll get together and figure it out.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a good.
At face value, I don't see that there's going to be an oh my God at all.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan at this point, and the fact that you're willing to be so nimble and reassess as you go is really important. I would encourage you to reach out to the neighbors before you get going, just to let them know that you have a plan in place. Might prevent some calls to town hall.
So by neighbors, who are you referring to?
The co-op particularly, and well, I don't know who you would reach out to. There must be property management. Josh, do you know?
I don't know at Putney Meadows.
Oh, Putney Meadows.
Tom and I have that info.
Yeah, and or you could probably put up a sign there for them. The other thing is, I don't know whether you're taking walk-ups, but you might want to. Yeah, I mean, for people who live right there, I guess going forward, maybe you try to figure out how to service people who live in
Well, that would
in
be
the,
fairly simple if they can utilize a telephone or use somebody's tablet or computer.
well,
Mhm.
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, but that maybe you see how it goes. The other thing I would encourage you to do is just try and place some signage where to encourage people to order next week.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Um, where
that's part of our
people.
required signage.
Okay. Well, but also, I mean, I'm talking about attracting other, like, people have a big sign where people are leaving the co-op. So, sort of saying, hey, if you want produce from the farmer's market, go to suchandsuch.com before next Saturday and you can come next week.
That's a great idea. Love it.
Yeah.
And also, I think putting some sort of signage up at Putney Meadows and letting them know how to get in touch with us is a great idea as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Great. I noticed Jason Hubner jumped on after we started this call, and I just want to make sure that he knows that if he wants to connect or jump into this conversation, just use the chat, and you can send us a message letting us know if you have a question or comment. Does anybody else have questions or comments about the Putney Farmers Market opening and protocol?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I'm so grateful for your support.
You're
Great.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane.
Okay, so I'm good for leaving the meeting now?
Yes.
You are good for leaving the meeting.
All right, have a
Good
great
night.
night.
You too.
Yeah.
All right. So our next select board item is the library status update.
Hey,
And-
Guys, how are you?
Hi, Emily.
Nice to see you guys, all of your faces. I'm really glad to check in with you guys just about what we've been doing at the library and potential future plans for the library. And I also I checked in with Karen just a little bit today about what you guys might want to know, and I'll just start by quickly outlining what's already going on, and then we can get to questions because I'm sure you guys have some. We are presently, and by we, I mean I am presently the only library employee that's been working since we closed. But when I say we, it's the library board and myself. So right now, the services for the library that we are providing are, we just started pickup lending again. We started actual picking up today, and it's people were really asking for that. We had done it for 2 weeks after we closed, and then the board decided it was a little bit too risky because there was very little known about how long the virus could live on different materials. There's more guidance on that now, including studies of actual library materials, including the ways that libraries wrap books and audiobooks and things like that. And the guidance is for us to quarantine items on the way back in for a week, which we had been doing when we first closed and are doing again now. So we are doing pickup lending outside the building three days a week now. We've been doing programming almost the entire time that we've been closed by Zoom. We have 2 children's story times a week, and then we have 2 to 4 adult programs a week, and those have been really popular, and people have really said that they appreciate it, that they appreciate the ability to connect. I've helped a lot of folks get set up with Zoom, which is, I think most people find really easy to do. So that's been an ongoing good thing that we've been happy to provide. And we've really bolstered our streaming and downloadable content, especially during the time that we were not lending physical items at all. So the library board allocated some fundraising money towards purchasing more copies of downloadable ebooks and audiobooks for just our patrons to use, as opposed to the pools that we share with the entire state. I moved some of our audiovisual materials money from purchasing physical items to using, to us subscribing to Canopy, which is an online streaming movie service that focuses on foreign independent foreign and independent movies plus documentaries, and they have a lot of children and families content. They also have a lot of how-to content. So if anybody needs a how to cut your hair video, that's one I certainly used recently. It's there's something for all of us. Yeah. So that's the stuff that we have been providing, or slash are providing now. I'm really happy we're doing pickup again. I think a lot of our patrons are. I was definitely getting many calls a week asking when we were going to be doing that again. In terms of other things like possibilities for reopening, I have zero timeline on that. I have been keeping up to date on what the, Governor Scott and the Vermont Department of Libraries, the State Department of Libraries, is advising, as well as just looking at the reopening plans of libraries of varying size across the country, and just what protocols they're putting into place for even beginning that process. I wanted to appraise you guys of just the realities of what it means to reopen the building. I know that, there's baby steps towards reopening retail right now. And a few people have said, well, like the library is like retail. And it's like the library is really not like retail. The reality is as soon as we open the building, we're going to have people of all ages there. We have children certainly, that spend all day at the library during the summer. We also have older people that spend all day at the library during the summer, and it's that, just from reading about it, it's that prolonged exposure to other people that are potentially infected that creates a real risk. So we, if we reopened, some libraries are just storing all their chairs off-site because, and saying you can't be, you can't spend any actual time here. You can come in and pick something up and then you can leave. As far as I'm concerned, we're providing that service already when we talk about pickup lending. I think that reduces a lot of the risk. We are certainly not providing our full range of services right now, but I think we're doing the best we can with having to be closed. I am concerned about the people that are not able to use computers right now. I'm thinking about, or people also are getting in touch just asking me to print things for them. And I have actually been doing that in kind of an unofficial capacity. And I think now that we're doing pickup lending and encouraging that, I think I'm going to open it up for people to be able to email me things to print and to either mail them or put them outside and they can pick them up, because that's a major service we provide. But computer use, internet use, people are certainly using the Wi-Fi out in the parking lot, and now that it's nicer out at the picnic tables and benches, but in terms of providing computer access, we're just completely unable to do that right now. So we also have staff in various high-risk categories. So, without getting into that too much in a public meeting, that is a big thought of mine. And for me, this whole thing and the considerations for reopening are really about staff and community safety. So that's kind of like where I'm at with all of that, but I'm sure you guys have some questions for me.
Yeah, actually, you reminded me of a question I meant to ask the farmers market. The last amendment I read required that all picnic tables and outdoor tables were removed. And so I'm curious if that applies to the library as well. And I noticed that there are 2 picnic tables that I believe belong to the farmers market. I could be mistaken, but my understanding is that they're all supposed to be put up right now to discourage even that kind of outdoor closeness.
Yeah, I was unaware of that. I mean, they're certainly used. We could post the same kind of social distancing, encouraging signage that we use in front of the library when people are picking up behind the library. We could also separate them. They're certainly used. Usually it's like 1 or 2 people kind of behind the library or sort of in the outside environment back there using their computers to use the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and I would hate for people to lose that.
Me too. So was that farmers market specific, Laura? Where did you read that?
It wasn't farmers market specific. It was the most recent order, and it was, I want to say that it was specific to businesses that were catering towards outdoor activities. But I don't know if it covers farmers markets, if it covers libraries, if it covers all businesses.
Right.
Um,
We'll have to look
so-
at that.
I'll look into it. Yeah, I'll definitely look into it. We certainly don't have a high volume of traffic back there in
Mhm.
terms of a lot of people are using it. A lot of people are also sitting in their cars, but I've never been concerned about the people that are there, being too close to each other. But of course, we should probably post signage back there. I'll look for that directive and see if I can interpret it for our use, or get in touch with the Vermont Department of Libraries and ask what they recommend. That's a good question. Also, speaking of behind the library, I don't remember who said that there should be sandwich boards everywhere, but I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but there's a big collection of sandwich boards behind the library that people are welcome to borrow and use as long as they put them back. It's one of our unofficial. There's no barcodes on them. You don't have to have a card. You just come and take one. But but I just wanted to make sure that you guys all knew about that and could advise others that needed to borrow a sandwich board, because it certainly would be a pain to build or get your own if you just needed it for, 1 weekend a month or something like that.
That's great. Thank you, Emily. Are they the kind that you put a poster on, or are they the kind that you have the lettering for?
We only have the ones that are back there are all the kind that you would staple a poster to, preferably a laminated poster, and they're in varying stages of decay. Many of them are in good shape, but people should certainly choose the one that works best for where they're putting it and it is stable enough, and they're not actually welcome to put them on the library property.
Noted.
Thanks.
Does the select board have any questions for Emily?
I've certainly heard good feedback about that, your online your online streaming service, that people like that. So
Yeah, people are really into it. I think we introduced it at the time when most people had scraped the bottom of Netflix and were really ready for anything else. So anyone with a library card can access it, and anyone without a library card can get in touch with me, and we can fix you up. If you are a Putney resident, you get one for free. If you are not, you can purchase an out-of-town card. And a lot of people have or have renewed their cards in order to be able to use some of the services where we've rolled out. So that's been good.
That's a good thing.
Good.
Yeah.
I will say also, aside from the movies, you've done a phenomenal job of reaching out to people through social media and the programming that you've put together, the story time. I haven't participated in the story time, but it looks really exciting and fun. And so kudos to you for keeping things going when you weren't able to use a building.
Yeah, I mean, it's the least we can do with everybody stuck home, and it's mostly been the people in town who were already doing great programs and volunteering their time. So it was just sort of about making them set up to be able to do it. And I'm really grateful that everyone wanted to do that. And I know that patrons are really into having that. The story times are particularly good. Susan Hesse is wonderful.
Great.
Do you
David,
guys
do
have
you
any
have
other questions?
Good. I'm good.
And I assume, Chief Goddard, if you have questions, you'll pop in. So, all right. Well, I don't see anything in the chat, so that feels good, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Emily.
You guys have a good night.
You
And
too.
feel free, any of
You too.
feel free to get in touch either by emailing me at the library or giving me a call. Chief Goddard, I know that you have my contact information as well. If anybody if a question comes to you or any other issue comes up in the rest of the meeting, please feel free to get in touch.
Good. Thanks.
Great.
Have a
Thank
good
you, guys. Enjoy.
Thank you.
You too. Enjoy the rest of the meeting. Bye.
Have a good night.
Thanks. All right. So our next item on the agenda is concerns about citizens not adhering to the governor's orders. And I just want to share
Hang
a
on.
pretty quick.
You want to?
Oh.
Sorry, I think Tom was earlier in the agenda, and we went over. I don't have the agenda in front of
Yeah,
I
can we do Tom, and that way
Yeah, sure.
if he has no comments on any of the
Yep.
other items?
Yeah. Tom, how are you feeling about that? You don't want to hang in through the whole meeting?
Well, at the end of my spiel, which actually is going to be pretty short, if it's okay, I will talk about what you just started, just to
Yeah.
give some idea of what kind of calls we're getting already,
Yeah.
and where things might go.
Okay.
To start with, everything with the department and our responses is all status quo as it has been the last few weeks. We're just late this afternoon, we received some additional guidance specific to our operations from the Fire Academy. I haven't read that yet. I'll read that either tonight or in the morning, and we'll start to implement some different things as it's appropriate. As far as the state is concerned, and any updates we've gotten, it's the same exact information now that everybody is receiving. Obviously, the governor is starting to open some things up. The big hope is that things are not going to open up too soon, and that as things do open up with continued restrictions, that people, the citizens, keep in mind the whole social distancing thing, face covering, so on and so forth, because the last thing anybody wants to see is a sudden surge, and that's what everybody's concerned about. So, along with that, Laura, if I may, with concerning what you started, and complaints, so far over the last 3 days, no, it's actually started on Sunday. So 4 days today, we received probably 25 to 30 inquiries / complaints
Wow.
about people who have traveled back into town from out of the area, not abiding by the guidance that's being issued. A lot of concerns surrounding, and in my opinion, absolutely nothing against these folks or their businesses, but the farmers market starting up. Some other places that'll be starting up, opening up some more, and a lot of concerns about. No, it's not concerns. It's gripes about people from out of state being attracted into state, and so on and so forth. So what I've been telling people at the end of the day is everything that the governor has issued is guidance. There are no solid rules. There is no enforcement. As long as the businesses are being diligent and doing what they need to do and should do in accordance with all the guidance, people coming into the state, they have a right to. I know of a case up in Hartford that occurred yesterday, I believe. That got it was pretty silly in my mind, and became confrontational. Law enforcement's now involved, simply because there was a vehicle without a state plates, and somebody took it upon themselves to tell them they need to leave the state. And so
In front of their children.
I clearly understand the level of fear. I understand the paranoia. I understand the concern. But we all need to be cognizant of the fact that I believe anyway that the complaints are going to keep coming. There are going to be a lot of people with some very, very strong opinions. At the end of the day, other than trying to educate folks when and where it's appropriate, there's really nothing that we can do, either as a municipality as a whole or as the emergency management director / health officer. There's no jurisdiction, there's no enforcement powers at all.
Yeah. And that's the same thing the sheriff said when we spoke with him about this last week.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to add that that didn't just happen in Hartford. That happened in Putney.
Really?
A Putney school teacher was followed up onto campus because they had New York plates. And their story is that this person got right into their space within 2 feet of them and proceeded to tell them that they shouldn't be here, and really shook them, not only shook them emotionally, but was physically in their space, which is dangerous at this point. And this is a person that maybe should have had their license plates updated a while ago, but has lived here for quite a while. And frankly, it really worries me that people in our community are taking it upon themselves to be vigilante justice seekers in this. And I urge everyone in our community to go through the proper channels. I don't want you inundated by phone calls, Tom, but I would rather them calling you than chasing somebody up onto the Putney School campus
Right,
and
exactly.
approaching them there.
That's totally inappropriate.
And it really, it has shook some folks to the point where they're unwilling to take their own car out to the store now because they're afraid that they're going to get looks and that they may be put in a compromising position because they have out-of-state plates.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is just not what we're about here. So it was pretty heartbreaking to hear that.
Yeah, that is sad. That's sad. Just another what is turning into a significant piece as far as receiving complaints is the number of folks in town who adamantly believe that they have the right to know who in town has the virus, where they are, and what they are doing, even to the point of policing these folks themselves to make sure they're not just out wandering around. That's becoming very frustrating listening to that. I honestly haven't received any phone calls about that in the last 4 days. But late last week and over the weekend, it was pretty significant. And again, I tell the folks that, well, and when I tell folks that legally, we don't, none of us have the right to know who these people are to be, unless they self-identify. And if they do, it's probably going to be to us, and we're not going to say anything anyways. We're legally bound. So essentially, I explained to them at the end of the conversation, it's nobody's business except their own, and the people are being monitored by the health department on a daily basis, and it is what it is. It's just that simple. On Saturday, I think it was Saturday, I got a phone call from a gentleman whose next door neighbor happened to be outside doing whatever in their own yard, and this person was convinced that the individual has the virus and demanded to know what we were going to do about it to keep them inside. So that type, and I'm again we haven't heard anything since then. I'm hopeful that it's kind of petered off and we won't, but I'm not convinced of it, especially as things start to open up more.
Yeah.
So just a point of information, frustrations, et cetera, that's all.
Yeah. I would just encourage folks, if you're worried about being exposed, control your environment. Don't try to control others at this point, and allow the authorities and the folks that are their doctors and the health department to guide these situations.
Right.
Oh.
So can I make
Well, I'm sorry that those are things you're dealing with.
Right.
No, that's all right.
And I'm glad you brought them up, Tom, both of them.
Yeah.
So the ACCD, there is a non-compliance complaint website. If people are really concerned, and they feel that somebody's not doing what they need to do, they should be reporting it to the state directly. And then the state will investigate it. And that information is on our website. And it was to go to iPutney as well. And Laura, I can share that with you.
Please do.
Or social media.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that folks understand that, you know, I can't express how much work Tom and his team have put into this crisis so far and how much work likely lies ahead of them. And if there is a place that our government, who is our state government, who I will assert has been handling this fairly well, if there's a place that they're trying to guide you to put a complaint in, please go to that to streamline this process and not overwhelm our local folks. I know you're an exceptionally capable person, Tom, and I have full confidence in you handling these phone calls. But I also think if there's a place where they can go, that doesn't have to be you.
I agree.
So.
Yeah, and particularly to educate oneself about what deserves a phone call and what doesn't. I mean, you know, Tom, as you accurately pointed out, a neighbor calling to complain about another neighbor outside in their yard, it's like, don't call anybody about that because it's none of your business, you know?
Right, exactly. And again, I truly do understand and I appreciate the fears. I appreciate the paranoia. I appreciate the concerns. But at the end of the day, and again, what I stress to everybody is everything that's been issued by the governor is guidance. There are no laws in place regarding this. There are no absolute directives, and there is no enforcement. So,
right.
Whether we like it or we don't like it, the citizens still have the right to do what they choose to do. So that all needs to be kept in mind. Again, people may not agree with it. People may not like what other folks are doing or not doing. But at the end of that day, that's their right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think perhaps an exception to that, Tom, is lodging. I mean, I have heard a couple people
that
talk
is
about,
accurate. Yes.
And that includes, I think, Airbnbs.
It does. Yes.
And I would certainly encourage people, if you are a neighbor of an Airbnb and you feel that it's being used inappropriately, that's a reportable offense.
Correct.
And
I know for a fact the state police will follow up on those.
Yeah, and that's inappropriate. I mean, people, when it is legally binding and there is enforcement, you should complain about it.
Right.
So I would encourage anybody who's witnessing that, because that's just abuse of people's. I mean, it's honestly, it's the Airbnb owners that deserve to be straightened out on that one. So.
Absolutely, but strictly pertaining just to citizens and individuals, in the complaints we received regarding those folks, that's what I was referencing. But you're absolutely right, Josh. There are things that are absolute, and motels and Airbnbs are one of those.
I would also stress, though, to let the police follow up on it and not make too many assumptions, because Airbnbs and motels can be used for other purposes at this point.
Exactly.
And
nobody, you're absolutely right, Laura. Nobody should be making assumptions that these places are operating just because they might see people coming and going or a vehicle. They may actually be operating lawfully, as they're allowed to. So
I have a comment, and it's just a comment, and it goes back to something that Laura said, and it seems like I'm not out that much, but when I am out, what it feels like is happening is there's a general relaxing in people's demeanor. And for a period of time, most of the people that I saw were wearing masks and taking precautions and staying 6 feet away. And I had to open up again on Monday because I just had to. And very few people are doing that anymore.
Mhm.
And I'm having to say, look, leave your keys in the car. I'll wipe the steering wheel down. I'll deal with it.
Right.
And so many people, I think that if they took care of themselves, if they didn't relax, if they wore their mask, if they carried wipes with them, if they did all of that, they could affect their world in so much more of a positive way than complaining about their neighbor.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if anybody else is seeing what I'm seeing, but it sure seems like people have gotten used to this and they're slacking.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's true or not in general, but it feels that way. I don't know. What are you seeing, Tom? Is that true?
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's going to get worse. Even though what I believe is going to happen is we're going to be continually reminded for quite some time regarding social distancing, wearing of face pieces. Even though that's going to be in the forefront every single day, as things continue to open up, that complacency is just going to increase, and more and more people are not going to be doing what they should be doing or what's being suggested, and then eventually unfortunately what is predicted will happen is things are going to spike, and then everything is going to be shut right back down again.
So that's probably it's probably in equal measure to the fact that things are opening back up, but also that things are opening back up and people aren't being careful. So,
Right.
What little bit I've read shows that the places that were able to achieve containment that opened back up again are definitely spiking.
Mhm.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that's tragic. They achieved
Right.
containment. It's like, what can you tell us about that? What is there to know besides doing everything you can do to be careful?
That's just it. That's all there is. There's no
Well,
magic formula at all. All it is just the common sense stuff that's been reiterated to us over and over and over again, and
yeah.
that's it.
And
And if you,
continuing that education,
right,
continuing,
right,
in spite of the fact that it feels like it's been hammered into all of us, just
yep,
continuing that, setting our expectations as a community. But yeah. David, I will say, just to reassure you a little bit, I navigate the world a little bit more than I would like to most days. And I do see a varied approach. So it depends on where I am and at what time I'm there. Sometimes folks are great, and they like, and I'll say, I think I said this in our last meeting, 95% of the people will be wearing masks and they'll be super conscientious. And then my mother-in-law told me a story about, I haven't been to the Putney post office in a while, but she told me a story that people are naturally waiting outside until the person that's in at the counter comes out. It's not even instructed; they're just doing it. So
wow.
and I hope that's always, and maybe that's just the time she happened to be there. But I think that there is a good portion of our population that is paying attention and doing the right thing, and then there are people that, for various reasons, are choosing not to, and but we can't police them. That's not our job.
No, I wasn't suggesting that. And the reason I
No,
brought
I
this,
know you weren't. That's more directed to people that are.
I'm going to turn into even more of a hermit before I police anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had two experiences, and I know I'm just jabbering on here, but I had a vendor in Keene I had to go to, and I went into a grocery store in Keene, and I was the only person in the place that had a mask and gloves on. And I went to a grocery store in Brattleboro, and 75% of the people were wearing
masks
and gloves, but still 25% weren't. And I see stuff that worries me. It worries me. But anyway, what can you do with that? I'm just blathering. So
No, rightfully so. And I will admit that when I see New York plates, my initial reaction is, what are you doing here? But I also, then I think through and I process that reaction, and I could never imagine chasing that person down and having any kind of conversation with them. So,
Yeah, it's, anyway.
all right. So Karen, you have that information for us on the non-compliance
I do.
complaint
Yes.
line, and we'll get that out to the public as much as we can. It is on the vermont.gov site if you're watching this, and it's a really long web address. I'm not going to read it out, but you can find it on the vermont.gov site, and we'll make sure it's up on the town site, and we'll get it out on social media, and
And the
please
sandwich
report your
board.
complaints there, and the sandwich board. Please report your complaints there. That's the appropriate place for them to go. Your concerns should go there. We have the next thing on our agenda was a positive COVID-19 cases in Putney protocol from a municipal level. Is that something, I know we touched on that a little bit. Is that something you want Tom in on?
No, actually, Tom explained that we can't police it. So that ties into the non-compliance complaint
Okay.
for people to go, I mean, like you said, it's confidential information. We
Yeah.
don't even have it. So
Yeah.
unless they self-identify, we don't know who they are. So
I just have to say that's such an invasive ask to ask for people's health information, and
right.
I understand the fear that's prompting it, but I would hope that folks that are asking for that would flip it around on themselves, and think about, do they want to share? Sorry, Tom, what was that?
That suggestion has been made to each one of them that I've talked to.
Yeah. Do you really want to share your health history? Because that's not something that we would ever expect of anybody under any circumstances. And
Is the state still posting the map that's giving the number of cases per town? They're still
Yes, they are. Yep.
Okay. Right.
And it's weekly.
Right. That's okay. Weekly.
What
and
day
we've had.
What's our most current number, Tom?
What's that?
What's our most current number? Do you know?
We're still at 6.
Still, yeah. So that's been steady for a little while.
Right.
Yeah. And those 6 could full well be recovered right now, is what I pointed out to people.
Definitely.
That could have been 6 at the very beginning, and they've moved on with life, and these aren't 6 new cases. I also have pointed out to folks that it has nothing to do with the landmark testing site, that we're not getting extra positive because of the landmark testing site. Those are designated by hometown.
Right.
So there's definitely confusion out there, but.
Yeah.
And from our perspective, confusion is one thing, because I'll take all the time necessary to explain to anybody what they might need to know, what would benefit them. The thing that gets real frustrating is when none of that is accepted, and we're still in the wrong for not providing information or not being transparent or whatever term they want to put to it. And it's still just they just don't get the fact that it's nobody's business. Period.
You're legally bound not to share that information.
Exactly.
Even if you knew it, you wouldn't be allowed to.
Right.
So that's.
So, okay.
Well, thank you very much. Does anybody else have anything for Tom? Are we?
I have one other thing. Tom, do you want to let everyone know you're on vacation next week?
Oh, yep. I'll be leaving Sunday. I'm going up north on an annual fishing trip. So I'll be out of town for the week next week. Josh, I'll be talking with you tomorrow. Just so you know, I'm going to be transitioning all the emergency management oriented stuff over to 2 folks, Chris Fellows and Evan Martin. So they'll be up to speed. Everything will be good. They'll have access. I'm going to give them access to my email so that they can receive all of the updates, bulletins, etc. that come in. I'm only going to be 3 hours away, so I'm not anticipating anything. But if anything should start to go on, I'll be back. I'll be in touch with Karen as I need to. I'll still have access to my email and all that I'll be checking. So it'll all be good.
Can I make a suggestion? Don't check your email. Stop it.
Yeah.
Go on vacation.
Well, I'm going to have my phone with me, so I don't have a whole bunch of choice. but I'll stay in touch once on and off with Karen, and everything will be good.
All right. We're still going to need you no matter what. So
Absolutely. I'll be back.
My suggestion, Tom, is to take pictures of the best fish. I want to see those.
Okay. All right.
that's a good suggestion too.
All right. We may doctor the photo up a little bit, but it'll be good.
I got a few I can share with you too.
It's all depth perception, Tom.
There you go. Yep. All right. Thank you.
Right.
Have fun.
All right, Tom. Thank you. Have fun. Take a real vacation.
All right. Take care.
You too.
I need to excuse myself because it's my son's birthday and dinner is ready, so I'm gonna head down to birthday.
Well, we could all join.
Virtually.
All right. Wish your son a happy birthday.
I will do that, and I think you have a nice meeting. Don't make it too long.
We're gonna power through it now.
Yeah.
Take care, Josh. Thank you.
Take care, Josh.
That happens to me every time. I'm like, how do I turn this off?
Okay.
All right. So we are moving on to Selectboard Updates, Signage COVID-19 in town. David, this is something that Karen and I had discussed a little bit this week. We have a sign ordinance in our town that really restricts how signs can be used, how long they can be up, whether they're temporary or not. And my suggestion was that we consider putting a moratorium on our ordinance for the time being, as long as the signs are COVID related or community supportive. So, I mean, I don't want to see the town littered with signs, and at the same time, the ones that I'm seeing are so heartwarming and informative, and it feels like that just for this time being. I don't know how long we would set that for, and I've never done a moratorium before. Maybe Karen can give some guidance.
Yeah, well, I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, I totally on board with that. I can't imagine there's anybody that's going to abuse that. And if it's making things harder, let's get rid of it for now. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that'll make your job too easier, Karen, because then you won't have to worry about like, should I be addressing this or not?
Yeah, so the banners, like, the Putney food shelf and, the banner in front of the co-op, those things I can overlook. The sandwich boards, I can overlook those, because in my mind, they're temporary.
Yep.
So, depending on how long this is going to last, if it gets out of control, then I might have to look into it. But, just to put a banner up, that requires a sign permit.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
And like the school also puts their little mural up down by the gardens, and it's up there for about a week, for the dinner. And I overlook that too, because it's temporary. It's not going to be up there, for a year. So right now I am overlooking some things.
So
I'm sorry. Should we change the wording in it so that whether instead of it being so difficult to have a sign, maybe it's the nature of the sign that makes it okay or not, and we get to decide that? Is that too?
I don't know if you want to go down that road, David. That gets really messy.
Man.
So an ordinance, David, just so you know, is the select board can revise it, they can amend it, but it has to go in front of the public. So it requires a public hearing, any feedback. You might end up with 2 public hearings, it depends. Unlike a policy where the select board can revise it and just approve it
Mhm.
without a public hearing. So ordinances are a little more, there's more legality to it.
Got it.
So with me sitting here saying I'm overlooking certain things, maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but
Right.
because it is a town ordinance and it's enforceable if we had enforcement.
Oh, here we go again. Another area for enforcement. Anybody? Good Lord.
Right.
So,
And the town manager is the one that approves the sign permit.
Got it.
So it goes through my office. But again, the ones I look at are the ones that are going to be permanent, whether they're on a side of a building or they're, 2-sided and they're hanging from a post, those are the ones that I look to permit.
Mhm.
Again, a temporary sign, as long as it's not out there for a year.
Are the signs, is that signs anywhere in town, or is that on main roads? Is that within just the business district? Is it anywhere?
It's anywhere. It's even like, yard sale signs. There's certain signage that we can't even have in town. We prohibit it altogether.
Huh.
Yeah, it's an extensive list, and each district it's a little bit different,
Explain.
for restrictions.
Oh.
so I'm curious if we can put a moratorium on it for a time being, and if not, then maybe we just continue to overlook them. And I'm also curious, like down the road, if we can revisit this, because it feels like it's been pretty consistently overlooked, throughout the years, even before your time, Karen.
Yes.
And so if this ordinance isn't serving us well, if we have to turn a blind eye to things over and over
Right.
again, at some point it's time for us to revisit it. I don't think that point is now.
Let me see.
It might be good to keep it in place until we have time to go over it, to do a
Exactly.
good job. So that if something comes up that's problematic, we have an ordinance that will back us up to stop a sign we don't want.
Yeah. So
put a moratorium on it, and then all of a sudden we've got signs for things that are ugly for whatever reason.
Right.
And we've got a moratorium. We don't want that.
So I was asking for a conditional one, a conditional moratorium that is COVID related. Anything that's informational for COVID or inspirational, basically we would, at this point,
Right.
yeah,
Well, that's
overlook.
my comment about the nature of the sign, but then we get into all kinds of,
Yeah. That's when you said, could we approve signs individually? And I was like, oh, we don't want to go down that road.
Right.
Because we would spend most of our meetings talking about signs, I think.
I have a sign at the end of my driveway, and I didn't get a permit for that. I didn't have any idea I needed one, so now I'm going to have to come in and get approved for my sign. Now I'm in Karen's radar. She got me in her crosshairs.
I know. Again, stop.
I grew up with that school that it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. I'm sorry.
Right. Just to let you know, the sign ordinance was adopted and enacted back on February 14th, 1997.
So I'm grandfathered.
Have you had your sign up since before then?
Sure. I started in 1986.
All right, you're grandfathered.
Karen.
No, it does feel like I've read this ordinance, and it's really comprehensive.
Right.
And I think it was around that same time when Vermont was deciding as a state that they didn't want billboards.
Right.
And so I think it was in keeping with that kind of trying to keep the landscape pristine. And I appreciate that and think that we should definitely uphold that value. And at the same time, question whether or not it's time to like look through this. But like I said, not at this
Oh, it's
time. Our plates are full.
Right.
So,
That all stems from
Yep.
some business on Route 7, the western part of the state. I remember there was all this to do about some business had signs every quarter mile up Route 7, and people got sick of it. I remember when this case happened, and I can't remember the name of it, but that one incident was over the top, and it changed the way we do signs in the whole state.
Mhm.
Remember Fletcher was telling me about this, but anyway.
yeah. Well,
I'll find out about a moratorium
okay.
and then,
And a conditional one that we
Yeah.
would be setting conditions to it. It wouldn't be an open field day for everybody, but
and just remember, we don't really want to set a precedent, so we need to be very cautious.
yeah. Well, I mean, during extreme crisis, so that's the precedent. It has to be during an extreme crisis.
Well, we get to decide the extreme crisis. Who's going to decide that? One person's idea.
During pandemics, you want to get more detail? Pandemics that affect our area.
We're trying to keep this easy, and who knows what might come up? It might make it more complicated. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes a person with good judgment using judgment might be the best thing without having to change the rules. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to go down that road. My dinner isn't ready, but I am ready for it. So
Yeah.
and we're almost there, David. So okay, our next item is public assistance state federal emergency FEMA grants.
So just to update the select board, I spoke to Tom, and the FEMA COVID-19 grant. So the threshold is $3,300, and you have to apply by this Friday. We're only at $2,800 spent out of our general fund budget. So Tom and I discussed it, and it's a long process for the grant. And it's only a 75% match. We're not going to move ahead with that grant. We feel that it's not a big enough expense that we should be applying. We have the money in our general fund. Tom has been getting a lot of supplies from the stockpile through the state. So it doesn't make any sense to go through the process. If it were $10,000, I would say yes. If it were $7,500, I would say yes.
You're telling David you're not going after money, and I can see his brain exploding through the screen.
I'm going to tell you, my question is this. We don't know how long this is going to last, and if we don't go after this now, will there be another opportunity later if this thing lasts for a year and we spend way more money?
Yeah. Are there cycles, Karen?
Are there cycles, or if we don't apply now, then we can apply later?
I don't know the answer to that question. And I don't know how long it stays open. So once the state of emergency closes, you only have 30 days to, submit your expenses. So as long as the state of emergency is open, those expenses can be submitted, But
okay, so let me ask you a question. I think I misunderstood. I thought you said it had to be in by Friday.
So I have to apply, I have to finish the application by Friday, the 15th.
Okay.
So, and it's a pretty extensive process, which
But you also said that you can submit your expenses at any point that the state of emergency is still in effect. So so it seems like there's something.
Is the state of emergency technically closing on the 15th when the stay-at-home order closes?
I don't know that for sure. I haven't seen any information on that.
Because my understanding is he's going to continue with guidance. We have
Yeah.
guidance already that goes beyond the 15th. So I'd be curious about that. And I would be curious if he doesn't close it and we don't apply by the 15th, does that exclude us like in perpetuity for COVID?
Yes.
And if that is the case, that's concerning. Because we could see much larger expenses come up down the road if this is going to continue, if this is going to go in waves the way it's believed it is and the way it's showing that it's trending around the world, that would be concerning. And then I guess my next question would be is if the state of emergency is going to close on the 15th and then another state of emergency would be opened due to another peak, would we be able to get in on funding then? Depending.
I would think there'd be a different grant
Mm-hmm.
for a second round.
Okay.
But
then, could we add our $2,800 to the second grant, or would we have to start over?
I would think we'd have to start over, David, because I think it's based on a period of time. And just to let you know, so Vernon is applying and Brattleboro is applying, and there was one other town in Windham County, but I don't remember what it was.
Do we know if they met the $3,300 minimum?
Well, I'm sure Brattleboro has, but I don't know about Vernon. And, there was a comment too about not sure, we can understand why Brattleboro would, because they're a bigger, municipality. Plus they have a lot more going on, like, with wastewater and, fire departments. They have more than one fire department. Yeah, I would really hate to go through this process and then not get to the threshold.
Is there any way for us to get answers to the questions that we brought up? Do you know?
Yeah, I can probably ask the lady at FEMA.
Well, that would be, I think that would relieve a lot of my concerns. Is to know the answer to the question.
And I think that we trust your judgment, Karen. So if you get answers and putting on David's hat and my hat and say, well, they would really want me to do this based on the answers I got, I would hope that you would. And
please don't take any questions I ask or comments in any way as not trusting your judgment on what to do here. I totally trust your judgment. Don't go there.
No, I'm not taking it.
I carry a lot of fear that this is going to last a really long time, and I think that when money runs out for unemployment, and when the stimulus package runs out about September 15th, things are going to get hard, and people are going to get tight, and fall's going to be coming, and then we're going to be looking at a very different fiscal picture. And so, any way for us to get any money, I want us to get it. That's how it feels to me.
I agree with David, and I share your concerns and fears, David. I do realize that through the course of the signage conversation, we kind of skipped over a signage piece, and that was how we're going to communicate with folks coming into the town, what we're hoping they will do when they come in. And I think it's unavoidable. We're going to see folks coming into town. It's important for us to recognize that and deal with it. And so, Karen and I had talked a little bit this week about if that's something that we as a select board want to take on, or do we want to put out a community ask and see if people in the community would be interested in creating signs for us that are kind of like what we talked about last week, the big cow with a mask on, and this is what social distance looks like. Please wear your mask. Please turn around. If you have any symptoms, go home.
Right.
I think those are the three main points. Don't go into places if you're symptomatic or have been exposed. Wear a mask. And if you need a mask now, Putney Mutual Aid has started up a project where they're going to have a mask tree. It sounds like it's going to be out front of the Gleanery, and volunteers are going to hang masks on the mask tree. So there will be free masks for anybody that needs a mask.
That's
Sure.
kind of cool. I like that idea.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
They're doing great work.
Yeah. As far as signage, for like going into stores and stuff like that, Laura,
Mhm.
are you leaving that up to the stores?
Well, stores are required to have a certain amount of signage per the governor's orders. They are supposed to have signage that says if you have any of these symptoms, do not enter. Some of our stores, like the Putney Co-op, has decided that you have to wear a mask and gloves while you're in there.
Right.
And they're providing them. Most people that I've seen are coming in with their own mask at the least. So I do entrust our local businesses to do this, but I think for us to have something that has a large presence, almost a billboard-like presence, I think it's important to show that it's a town concern. That when you come into Putney, we're asking you to do these things.
I think it's really important too that if we put it out there and it's obvious and there's no way really anybody could have missed it, and they don't conduct themselves in a way that's responsible, then we get to say, there's masks on that tree over there. Would you please take one?
Right.
And if you don't tell people, you don't make it obvious,
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's a good idea. Are stores required to put up a sign saying that it's strongly suggested you wear a mask and gloves? They're not, because it's not enforceable. They're not. Right.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Their requirement is that it has to say if you have these symptoms, don't come in. But what I have seen is most stores are putting up signage asking folks to wear masks and politely asking, but and some are requiring it. So the Putney Co-op being one of them, that you need to wear a mask and gloves if you're coming in. And if not, if you don't want to wear a mask and gloves, then we do curbside.
Got it. Yep.
So I'm happy to put out a community ask to see if there's anybody that's interested in making those. I know Josh said that he was going to see if the Putney School had anything. I can't follow up with him on that, but Karen, if you want to follow up with him on that, and I can't, just because of open meeting law, I can't follow up with him on that. This is sometimes why I wish we had a 5-person board. But if you want to follow up with him on that before I put that ask out there, and then if the Putney School doesn't have the time, ability, whatever, desire, then we can put out a community ask and see if folks want to do it.
Okay. All right. I'll get back to you.
All right. Sorry to skip around like that. That was important. And it got a little lost in the other sign conversation. So is there any response update at this point?
No, I think we're pretty much still in it,
Yeah.
Still waiting.
Yeah, I meant to ask Tom about the continuity plan. Have you?
I will ask him about it before he goes on vacation.
Well,
because I just found out our hazard mitigation plan expires in November of 2020.
oh, stop it.
No, I'm serious. I just found out today and I'm just like, so I'll bring that conversation to the board next week. But
I was not,
I think the continuity plan can tie into the hazard mitigation plan. And
okay.
you know, the whole resiliency that you were talking about, Laura,
Mm-hmm.
in this plan that
Good,
needs to be updated.
good. I was on that Wyndham call on Tuesday. That was yesterday, which feels like a week ago now.
Yep.
And somebody mentioned that we're entering hurricane season. And I was like, oh, just stop. We are not entering. That's not happening. That's not allowed to happen right now. And
No.
that we should start preparing for tropical storms and potential hurricanes as communities, that we have to be covering all the emergencies at once. And I was like,
Right.
well, we know, and let's not talk about it right now.
I'll follow up with Tom again with the continuity plan.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Last thing, David Babbitt, and then you can get to dinner. Town hall protocol.
So I sent you the protocol, Laura, because you wanted to see it.
Yep.
So this is just for town hall. The highway department's still going to continue what they're doing, basically isolating from one another and just doing, you know, they're running trucks right now. So, so that seems to be working. And Tom has his own protocol for the fire station, which hasn't changed. So, as you know, so I called Alyssa and Jonathan back on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So the three of us are going to be in the office, our regular hours, 9 to 4. Jonathan's 8 to 4 because on Wednesday he is 8 to 7 and he's not working on Fridays.
Okay.
So we have enough work amongst the three of us that, you know, I feel we need to be in the office. We've had visitors already in the land records.
I saw that.
Yeah, so we have cleaning schedule, we have disinfecting schedule, we have masks, we have gloves if they need them, but people are bringing their own in, which is terrific. We meet them at the front door and they go wash their hands and then we bring them to the copier room.
Okay.
So.
That's all good. The only thing that I might, and I believe that it's a requirement of the new training that was sent out, is that folks should be taking their temperature. And if you really want to dot the I on it, I suggest a temperature log. So just, they can take it at home if you don't have a thermometer.
We
You're
have
supposed
one on order.
Okay. Did you get the infrared?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's what I did for our organization was I created a log that had date, name, temperature, and then the question, do you have any of these symptoms?
Right.
And it's the chest, the lung symptoms, and people just write no. So instead of me going through that with them every time they come through a door.
I know, because that's a little invasive too when you got to ask them those questions.
It does feel that way, and it's also like it's not. I don't believe that you have to do that with everyone coming into the building. I think you only have to do that with staff.
Okay.
No, but it is in that training, I believe. I've read so many updates. It's all becoming one.
Yeah, but
There's a little tidbit I wanted to share. I don't know if they're talking about this or not, but a lot of the stuff that I was reading is that oxygen sat is the first sign that there's a problem. I actually went out and bought myself one of these, and I've been doing it every morning and every night to make sure that it stays where it is. And they say that, you know, anywhere between 94 and 100 is normal at sea level for a healthy person. And just when you see those start to drop, that usually drops before any signs of symptoms for someone who's positive. I don't know if they're doing anything with that or not, but read some very interesting articles from ER doctors about catching things early and how important that is because of the way the disease attacks the cells that produce surfactant in the lungs.
Mm.
And that's the first thing that happens is your oxygen sat drops before anything.
Interesting. That's good to know. I don't think that's in any of the official guidance yet that we've received, but it makes sense.
Makes perfect.
So, yeah.
All these cases that are happening, people are coming in once they have shortness of breath and they've had pneumonia for a week or two before they even feel the shortness of breath.
Yeah.
They're saying that's a good thing. So that's just a tidbit. I'm no doctor. That's just a thing. But and if you're done, are you done, Laura? Do you have more? Because I have something to add if you don't.
Okay, I am done.
Okay. I wanted to just add that I followed up with Brian today. I had a really good conversation with Brian at the town garage about the truck and about moving forward and being all on the same page. And, took a look at the truck and have lots of information. And I can save all this for next week's meeting. But we did that. Really feels like we're all on the same page and, everybody's on board and understand the challenge that this could present for the town over the next bit financially. So
great. I hope that at our next meeting we can also start to talk about communicating with the town regarding the budget and putting the ask out there. What would you be willing to sacrifice, and what creative ideas do you have for us to support us in this endeavor of cutting things or trimming things to.
Yeah, and what can you offer? Not, what do you need? What can you offer? And in so many ways, just the acceptance that we've come to expect a very high level of services that are expensive, and that even if we cut back on some of those in some ways as need be, that doesn't change our town and who we are as a community. And there's lots of ways the private sector can fill in places that we might not be able to supply the kind of service or help that we've been able to in the past financially. And I think that we really have a unique opportunity here because the type of people that live in Putney tend to be pretty community oriented, big-hearted and big-minded people who would want to be part of this and contribute in a way.
Agree.
So that there's as little a small bump in the road as possible, and yet we can still make ourselves much healthier fiscally in the long run. And I have a lot of thoughts about that too that I'd love to share next meeting. So
I know you do. All right. Well, our next meeting date, we're going to have our regular meeting on, I'm not date savvy here. On May 20th, we will be holding our regular meeting at 5:30. And then we're going to skip the May 27th emergency preparedness meeting to give everybody a little break. It's been intense. And then we will get back to, and then we will have a regular meeting again on June 3rd, and we will get back to the emergency preparedness schedule on June 10th. And we will carry forth until we no longer need to do this, hopefully.
Right.
Not that I don't love seeing your faces every week, but no. All right. So, well, David, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we close the meeting.
I second that. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Good night, all. Thank you.